Good morning. This is Monday with Friday, preparing you for a better week ahead. Last week, I was a guest on a talk show that discussed the matter of judging. The host referenced the Bible verse, "Judge not, lest you be judged." I addressed that verse both in its immediate context and in its wider biblical context, something too many Bible-loving people fail to do, who go on to thereby misinterpret the Bible. I observe that this is a relative, not absolute, command, that its interpretation as relative is clarified in the verse that follows it, that by the measure by which you judge others, you should expect to be judged. Those verses precede an argument from the absurd, where Jesus asks, "How can you, with a huge 2x4 in your eye, dare to take a speck of sawdust out of your brother's eye? You hypocrite," Jesus thunders. Jesus was evidently denouncing judgmentalism, not judgment. Those two are not the same. We don't need judgmentalism, but we shall always need sound judgment. Last week, the world heard the verdict that any person not living under a rock should have expected. A boy crossing state lines, carrying an AR-15 type weapon he was not legally authorized to carry, arrogated to himself the role of a police officer and a paramedic, breached curfew hours, created a situation that reasonably portrayed him as an active gunman in a volatile situation. He shot and killed 2 men and injured another. And he was declared innocent on all counts because his right to self-defense was considered greater than his 3 victims' right to self-defense against him, 2 of whom had no firearm and the 3rd who had one with the opportunity to discharge it, but did not. This judgment disturbs me and millions of people worldwide, and I wonder if it strikes us as wrong because the national system that delivered that verdict has not a 2x4 plank of wood, but an AR-15 in its eye, heart, and mind, clouding judgment, good judgment all the way. Could a black man have done what that defendant did? Face that same judge and jury if he wasn't shot on sight by the police the night of the killings and walk away with the same verdict? Why was Tamir Rice, a black 12-year-old kid, playing with a toy gun in a park near his home, summarily executed by the police who walked scot-free, while this white 17-year-old fellow with a massive gun with full metal jacket bullets, who killed 2 and maimed 1, set free? Why were the Americans who've shouted, "Free the 17-year-old," so indifferent and callously unsympathetic toward Trayvon Martin? Is it the 2x4 plank of loaded gunmetal in their eyes with a little privilege thrown in that makes a speck of black skin, no matter how young and unarmed, a mortal threat and a sin deserving of death? Twice last week, I was engaged in discussions related to LGBTQ issues. One was more formal than the other. I affirmed in both discussions that these issues aren't as black and white and cut and dried as some folks, especially some religious ones, think them to be, and that we must approach issues of complexity with humility, reticence, curiosity, more patience, and less moralizing and judgmentalism. In one discussion, folks were careful, sympathetic, and slow to judgmentalism. They lacked any smug pride that said, "God, we thank you that we are not like these other sinful people." In the other discussion, the judgmentalism came fast, with no allowance for the possibility that there is much about these matters that we still do not understand, especially given what various disciplines, including history, anthropology, psychology, all tell us, and various tools of interpretation of religious scriptures would forewarn us. It left me sad. America, with an iron foundry in its eye, often looks down on and excessively judges other nations, especially those nations of the global south. Those nations have no dishonest judges malinterpreting a Second Amendment, thereby allowing every tomfool, small-brained Dick and Dirty Harry to walk around with an oversized and loaded weapon, inserting their arrogant and often racist selves into a protest or even a riot. Nor do they have 40,000 souls perishing by the gun each year. America's favorite religion, especially of so-called white and now Trumpian evangelical vintage, with a lumber yard in its eye, has the pharisaical habit of judging everybody else as wrong, sinful, lost, and shut out from God. The more America and her favorite now defective religion do this, the more incredible, irrelevant to, and impotent for good in the world they shall both become. I am Michael Friday, and your week just got better. I'll see you again next week. Happy Monday, all the way to Friday.